And away we go, episode 1194 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Friday, November 7th, 2025. It now has been exactly 2 months since the Washington Commanders' 2025 regular season opener, September 7th, the 21-6 win over the New York Giants at Northwest Stadium. A simpler time, a far more innocent time. A lot has happened with our team since then, and most of what has happened has not been good. The team has lost 4 consecutive games, 5 of its last 6 games, and 6 of its last 8 games. The team has suffered 3 consecutive blowout losses, including the humiliating 38-14 loss to the Seattle Seahawks at Northwest Stadium on Sunday Night Football this past Sunday night. But the Commanders have played just 9 of their 17 games in this regular season. There still is a lot of season left. We are just barely past the halfway mark. Are things going to get better? Or are things going to get worse? The 3-6 Commanders versus the 5-3 Detroit Lions at Northwest Stadium this Sunday afternoon at 4:25. Hello and welcome to this Friday installment of the Al Galdi podcast. Coming up on the show, in-depth preview of Commanders-Lions. Next segment, a breakdown of the Commanders' injury report for Thursday afternoon's practice, analysis of the Lions' defense and offense, and discussion of comments from offensive coordinator Kliff Kingsbury and defensive coordinator Joe Whitt Jr., including Kingsbury on the Commanders' rushing offense and Whitt on him moving from being in the Commanders' coach's booth during games to being on the Commanders' sideline during games. The following segment, a deep dive on the Lions, as we'll speak with the longtime radio play-by-play announcer for the Lions, Dan Miller. Dan is from the Washington, D.C. area, worked in the D.C. market in the 1990s. And the segment after that, my rhyming keys for a Commanders win over the Lions. Don't laugh. And my prediction for the game. Also on the show, college football, GaldiLocks for the FBS teams of the Mid-Atlantic region for Week 11 of the 2025 season, and thoughts on big games for Maryland, Navy, and number 14, Virginia. You know, the Terrapins, like the Commanders, are in the midst of a 4-game losing streak. Which team will break its losing streak first, the Commanders or the Terps? I'll hang up and take your answer off air. And on the show, we'll discuss the Washington Capitals. They on Thursday night lost at the Pittsburgh Penguins 5-3 as the Caps went just 2 for 5 on the penalty kill and 0 for 3 on the power play. A bad night on special teams. Before we get to some feedback, some news regarding the Washington Nationals. The National League winners of 2025 Silver Slugger Awards were announced on Thursday evening. Nats left fielder James Wood was one of 6 finalists among NL outfielders, but he did not win a Silver Slugger. Silver Slugger Awards go to the best hitters at various positions/roles, and there also is a Team Silver Slugger Award in each league. Position finalists and winners for each league were determined by a vote of managers and coaches from each league. Also, the Nats on Thursday afternoon announced multiple roster maneuverings, including relievers Zach Brixey and Ryan Ludis, each having been claimed off waivers. And while we're talking Nats, yet another former Nats player now is an MLB manager. The San Diego Padres, they on Thursday afternoon announced having agreed to terms with former Nats reliever Craig Stammen on a 3-year contract to become the Padres' new manager. This off the Los Angeles Angels on October 21st, having announced the hiring of former Nats catcher Kurt Suzuki as manager, and New York Yankees manager Aaron Boone and Boston Red Sox manager Alex Cora. Each of those guys played for the Nats. 4 of MLB's 30 managers now are former Nats players. Also, the Baltimore Orioles, they on Thursday night announced multiple roster moves, including having agreed with free agent outfielder Leody Taveras on a 1-year Major League contract for the 2026 season, having exercised their 2026 club option on reliever Andrew Kittredge, and having declined their 2026 club option on infielder/outfielder Jorge Mateo. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Feedback on the Commanders, specifically the outlook moving forward. Email from Gary Plummer II, writes Gary. How was the season over before Thanksgiving? Smoke and mirrors last season. We all had front row tickets. The NFL should be fined for putting us on primetime. The team disrespected the new uniforms, disrespected Art Monk, and now we have to play in the Scrub Bowl in Madrid. And on Christmas, the goal. Can the NFL position flex us out? My eyes deserve better. Operation Tank is in full effect. Love the show. Thank you for the email, Gary. Email from Brad. Writes Brad, I might be a dummy, but I'm not even angry at the idea of a repeat of Operation Lose Out. I'll admit that availability is starting to make me nervous on JD5, but it reminds me more of the Bradley Beal scenario with the Wizards than a true injury-prone guy. Lots of different injuries versus a particular type of injury. JD5 needs to be smarter on hits, but I'm still super confident in him. The preseason showed us one thing. We had no depth. Those games were not competitive, and this is showing now. The old guys who were a great feel-good story last season, those guys look their age. Terry's drama put the offense behind, and we have never really been able to get out of first gear. Noah hasn't helped either. This season is sadly flushed. But I wouldn't say the trajectory is gone. JD5, while off so far this season, is still excellent. I hope people aren't falling off that bus. I'm all in. McCaffrey started showing signs. Bill, I think, has potential. Amos and Sainer still have upward-pointing arrows. We need to find out about Sinnott for sure. So I say flush the season, get that top 5 pick, maybe a top 3 pick, trade it to a quarterback-needy team, stockpile some picks, still go shopping at the bargain bin a bit for free agency. If there is a big need that you can fill, go ahead, but don't chase it if it isn't there in free agency. You need to get a proven commodity at defensive coordinator, cut dead weight like Lattimore. You get back to an easier schedule next season. Boom, right back in the thick of things. It stinks to be done with football in November again, but this one does feel different. There is no reason that this team can't be set up for a really strong season next season, but make no mistake, the team is done for this season. Thank you for the email, Brad. Yet another reference to Operation Loseout, a successful mission that we conducted on this podcast during the Commanders' 2023 season, resulting in them getting the number 2 overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, which was perceived to be loaded at quarterback. And the Commanders, with that number 2 overall pick, of course, took Jaden Daniels. Here's my thinking with doing an Operation Loseout for this season. If/when the Commanders get to 8 losses, then we do Operation Lose Out. Making the playoffs in this NFC this season almost certainly is going to require a record of at least 10-7, and even that may not be good enough. But the Commanders are 2 losses away from being guaranteed to not go at least 10-7. My number 1 most preferred scenario for our team is for it to go on a miracle run and make the playoffs. Highly unlikely, I know, but still technically possible. Once all realistic playoff hopes are gone, then yes, I will shift to Operation Lose Out unless Jaden Daniels is back. He matters more than anyone or anything with this team. If he's back, then I want to see him play well and continue to develop. But if he is not back and the team is at 8 losses, then heck yeah, commence Operation Lose Out 2.0. Email from Kevin. Writes Kevin, I guess we can call this season like we see it, over and done. I had hope after the previous Monday night. I do not have hope now that I've seen this past Sunday night. I shudder to think about what Detroit does to us in its get-right game. Looking ahead, we need to make changes for next season in the coaching staff. An NFL team can't have another 3 or more game stretch like this on defense, regardless of how many injuries we can point at. I'll also say this, if the defense does not improve next season, Dan Quinn needs to go regardless of the record. There's no point in a defensive-minded head coach if the last 2 seasons are the product you get on the field. Maybe that's reactionary, but the defense has been unbelievably bad. Injuries only excuse so much. You have to at least compete, and we have competed a total of 2 out of the last 12 quarters. Looking forward to next season. Certainly not looking forward to this Sunday. Thank you for the email, Kevin. You know, there is a storyline regarding the Commanders' loss to the Seahawks that nobody who I'm aware of has talked about, but I am going to talk about that storyline right now. Mike Macdonald. The Seahawks on January 31st, 2024 announced the hiring of Baltimore Ravens defensive coordinator Mike Macdonald as head coach. The Commanders, just a few days later, February 3rd, 2024, announced the hiring of Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator Dan Quinn as head coach. For all of the talk about how much the Commanders wanted/did not want then Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson as head coach, what gets forgotten is what was out there about the Commanders and Mike Macdonald. Commanders insider Ben Standig, then with The Athletic, and NFL insider Diana Rossini of The Athletic, they co-authored a piece that came out on February 5th, 2024. The headline of that piece was, quote, How the Commanders Landed on Dan Quinn Amid Twists, Turns, and outrageous actions, end quote. The piece included this on the Commanders, Mike Macdonald, and Ben Johnson. Quote, once Johnson was out of the running, the Commanders thought they were going to get Macdonald until the Seahawks swooped in with more money, league sources told The Athletic, end quote. People get sensitive when you bring up whether Dan Quinn in that 2024 offseason was in fact the Commanders' first choice to be head coach. But to this day, we don't know if he was. Maybe he was, but we don't know with certainty that he was. And that reporting right there from Ben Standig and Diana Rossini suggests that Quinn was not the Commanders' first choice to be head coach, that the team wanted Mike Macdonald and just got outbid by the Seahawks. Now, there may well be important nuance here. Like maybe the Commanders only wanted Macdonald to a certain point, and that's why they didn't outbid the Seahawks. But if you go by that reporting, the Commanders wanted Mike Macdonald, and he is killing it as Seahawks head coach. 10-7 last regular season, 6-2 in this regular season. Did the Commanders in the 2024 offseason make a mistake in not paying whatever was necessary to get Mike Macdonald as head coach? Email from Yassine, writes Yassine. Good day, Al. Mark my words. On the day of November 2nd, 2025, the Dan Quinn era in Washington died completely. Oh, the first half versus Seattle last Sunday night was the worst defensive performance ever. And Quinn left Jaden Daniels in the game as he scrambled for his life while throwing to backup receivers with no upside, even down 38-7. I actually turned off the game late in the third quarter and watched Netflix. Finished up the Montreal Expos documentary, which had a depressing ending. Then when I tuned back to the Commanders game, I witnessed another depressing event. I couldn't believe that Dan Quinn kept Jaden Daniels in the game. And then I saw Daniels' left elbow snapping the wrong way. I cried and went to bed devastated and depressed. I'm so done now. I want everyone fired, including Quinn. Will I ever see back-to-back playoff seasons for Washington football? That hasn't happened since 1990 through 1992. We have been so bad for so long, and this season is not only over and hopeless, there is 0 point watching the team the rest of the season. I have no interest watching Marcus Mariota starting the rest of the season, and with the way that Mariota plays, we could see third-string quarterback Josh Johnson starting a game for Washington in December. This season has been a season from hell, and it is clear that Dan Quinn will never recover from this going forward, and therefore it is time to fire Dan Quinn ASAP. Thanks for taking the time to read my email, Al, and enjoy the rest of this painful Commander season. Thank you for the email, Yassine. I do not think that Dan Quinn deserves to be fired for last Sunday night, but that was not a good night for him. By the way, have you seen the photo of Dan Quinn holding Jaden Daniels' hand as Daniels was on the ground off suffering the dislocated left elbow last Sunday night? That, to me, is the picture of the season, the photo of the season, the perfect snapshot for this season. Quinn holding Daniels' hand as Daniels is writhing in pain of having been injured. But that actually is a touching photo. I like Dan Quinn. He's a good man. He made a mistake in keeping Daniels in the game, but Quinn manned up and less than 24 hours later admitted that he made a mistake. You know, it would have been funny if Jaden Daniels, when Dan Quinn went to hold Daniels' hand while writhing in pain, ripped away the hand and gave Quinn the finger. That would have been funny, but no, Daniels did not do that. Email from Dennis Kemp in Laurel, Maryland. Writes Dennis, Al, I think moving Joe Whitt to the sideline is an excellent move. At least he will be in position to trip Gibbs, St. Brown, or some other Lion as he is free running down the sideline. On another note, I didn't realize that the Seattle receiver group was considered banged up. What would have happened if the Seahawks had been at full strength? Thank you for the email, Dennis. Good question. Yes, inactives for the Seahawks this past Sunday night included receivers Cooper Kupp and Jake Bobo, who were injured. Now, not every piece of feedback that I have received has been pro Operation Lose Out or has been gloom and doom. Email from Redskins fan, writes Redskins fan, hey Al, I don't want to see this team give up. I'm glad that the team did not have a fire sale. I hope that the team does not adopt a loser mentality, and that's what it would be if we give up on this season. We need your buddy to bring in some free agents to make the team better. I believe we can still have a good season. I also think that fans should stop bailing on the team. That's a loser mentality. We want better from our team, but we don't give the team the support it should have to get better. We need to fight for our team and cheer the team on. Thank you for the email, Redskins fan. My buddy, that would be Commanders General Manager Adam Peters. I am a lot more pro Adam Peters than Redskins fan is. I hear you, Redskins fan. I get not wanting to bail on the season. The Nace Law Group, accident and injury lawyers. If you feel that you've been wronged, if you think that you've been wronged but aren't sure, contact the Nace Law Group, accident and injury lawyers, and mention that Al Galdi sent you. You could call 202-902-7611. You could also visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com, and submit for a free, no-obligation case review. The Nace Law Group features compassionate lawyers and zealous advocates for its clients, led by the great Chris Nace and founded in 1979. The Nace Law Group is a Washington, D.C.-based family law firm that handles medical malpractice, personal injury, birth injury, legal malpractice, and consumer protection cases, offering aggressive advocacy for victims in Washington, D.C. and West Virginia. The Nace Law Group is outstanding. It will fight for you and your family. The Nace Law Group can help you and your family make difficult decisions. The Nace Law Group has recovered millions of dollars for the sick and injured. If you have a case, contact the Nace Law Group. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C. injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. That's 202-902-7611 or Washington, D.C. injurylawyers.com, and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group, accident and injury lawyers. Week 10 of the NFL's 2025 regular season gives us the 3-6 Washington Commanders versus the 5-3 Detroit Lions at Northwest Stadium this Sunday afternoon at 4:25. The Commanders practiced on Thursday afternoon. 5 Commanders offensive players were on the team's injury report for Thursday afternoon's practice. Quarterback Jaden Daniels did not practice for a second consecutive day. This, of course, due to the dislocated left elbow that he suffered in the team's 38-14 loss to the Seattle Seahawks at Northwest Stadium on Sunday Night Football this past Sunday night. He, of course, is out for this Sunday. Receiver Terry McLaurin did not practice for a second consecutive day, this due to his quadriceps injury. He, for the loss to the Seahawks, was inactive off having re-injured the quad in the Commanders' 28-7 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football on October 27th. McLaurin in that game returned from a 4-game absence caused by the quad injury. He is almost certainly out for this Sunday. By the way, you can wave bye-bye to his franchise record streak of having at least 1,000 receiving yards in each of 5 consecutive regular seasons. That was a terrific streak, but that streak is as good as gone. Running back Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt was a full participant in practice. He, on Wednesday afternoon, was a limited participant in practice due to dental work. Tight end Colson Yankoff was a limited participant in practice for a second consecutive day. He's dealing with a hamstring injury that has caused him to be inactive for each of the Commanders' last 2 games. And left tackle Laramie Tunsil was a full participant in practice, but was on the injury report due to a hamstring issue. 6 Commanders defensive players were on the team's injury report for Thursday afternoon's practice. Safety Quan Martin was a limited participant in practice. This off him not practicing on Wednesday afternoon. He has a hamstring injury that he dealt with in the team's loss to the Seahawks. Safety Tyler Owens was a limited participant in practice. This off him not practicing on Wednesday afternoon. He has a hamstring ailment and now also has a neck issue. Cornerback Trey Amos was a limited participant in practice for a second consecutive day. He has a hip problem that he dealt with in the loss to the Seahawks. Interior defensive lineman Johnny Newton was a full participant in practice. He, on Wednesday afternoon, was a limited participant in practice due to his ankle ailment. Interior defensive lineman Eddie Goldman was a full participant in practice. He, on Wednesday afternoon, was a limited participant in practice due to a concussion that he suffered in the loss to the Seahawks. And linebacker Bobby Wagner was a full participant in practice for a second consecutive day, but was was on the injury report due to a thumb issue. Your updated list of notable Commanders players on the reserve/injured list: receivers Noah Brown and Luke McCaffrey, running back Austin Eckler, edge defenders Dorrance Armstrong, Dietrich Wise Jr., and Javonte Jean-Baptiste, cornerback Marshawn Lattimore, and safety Will Harris. And so here we are. Commanders offensive coordinator Kliff Kingsbury, he did a pre-practice press conference on Thursday starting right around 12 p.m. His offense this Sunday is facing a quality Lions defense. If you go by expected points added per play, EPA per play per RBSDM.com, the Lions for this regular season through week 9 were number 6 in the NFL in total defense, number 5 in the NFL in pass defense, and number 10 in the NFL in run defense. Regarding that, the most interesting topic during the Kliff Kingsbury presser on Thursday afternoon was the Commanders' rushing offense, including the situation at running back. The Commanders for this regular season for weeks 1 through 5 were number 3 in the NFL in rushing offense in terms of expected points added per play per RBSDM.com. But the Commanders for this regular season for the last 4 weeks, weeks 6 through 9, were number 25 in the NFL in rushing offense in terms of expected points added per play per RBSDM.com. Big time drop off, though there were some positive signs in the loss to the Seahawks. Running back Chris Rodriguez Jr. in the game had 12 carries for 65 yards and a touchdown, though running back Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt had a fourth consecutive underwhelming game, 12 carries for 38 yards. We on Thursday afternoon had this exchange between Commanders insider Tashawn Reed of the Washington Post and Kliff Kingsbury. And then you hear a follow-up exchange between Mitch Tischler of Monumental Sports Network and Kingsbury.
When it comes to the run game, the last few weeks we've talked about this before of teams kind of keying in on the run game, loading the box. As an offense coordinator, how do you kind of try to fight around that and remain efficient in the run game, even when that's the case?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of getting behind early, where you abandon it at some point. Around the third quarter, you're trying to catch up, which hasn't helped, and then just trying to find the right matchups, the right personnel groupings, different things to take advantage of, maximizing your personnel. We got to do a good job of that. I feel like the guys that we're asking to step up and play have gotten a better feel for the offense at this point and should be able to start making some strides that'll help us, not only in the run game, the pass game as well.
Following up on the run game, do you feel like early in the game when you guys were trying to get it going, is the offense doing a good job of taking what's there, or have you seen guys kind of trying to maybe do a little too much? I
think all of us are pressing a little bit. Yeah, you definitely feel that. We got to take what's blocked. I thought that's one thing C-Rod did a really nice job when he came in. We got to take what's blocked, and then the big plays will come. But I think as an entire offense, we're pressing, and we've got to just make the routine plays and allow those big plays to happen.
What Kliff Kingsbury said there regarding running backs not always doing a good job of taking what's there echoed what head coach Dan Quinn said during his pre-practice press conference on Wednesday afternoon. And interesting that Kingsbury made it a point to praise Chris Rodriguez. More on him. We on Thursday afternoon had this exchange between Commanders insider Ben Standig of Last Man Standing on Substack and Kingsbury.
With the run game, you mentioned Chris Rodriguez. You guys moved on from Brian Robinson. It sounds like you guys ultimately wanted to get maybe more explosive plays out of the backfield, but you haven't used Rodriguez a lot. And the Robinson part was a key last year, providing that interior running toughness, whatever. Is that something that maybe you guys have gotten away from too much? And as you had mentioned, what he did this game, maybe some sign of something to come?
Yeah, I think you go through flows of the season, and different guys kind of are called upon to do different things. And every time we've asked C-Rod to step up, he's played at a high level. And so he did that once again. But that's an area, like I said, I think we've got to be able to get what's blocked. And then when we have a chance to make a big one, we got to take advantage of that as well.
Get what's blocked. There was that theme again. The Commanders' run blocking at times has not been good, but the team clearly thinks that Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, who has gotten the bulk of the carries, isn't doing a good enough job of getting what's blocked. As for the Commanders' defense, it is not good. And it, for a fourth consecutive game, is facing a high-level offense. If you go by expected points added per play per RBSDM.com, the Lions for this regular season through week 9 were number 9 in the NFL in total offense, number 8 in the NFL in passing offense, and number 16 in the NFL in rushing offense. So the Lions, Jared Goff, he for this regular season through week 9 was number 13 among all qualified quarterbacks in the NFL in ESPN's total QBR, 62.9. Was number 10 among all qualified quarterbacks in the NFL in expected points added per play per RBSDM.com, was number 7 among all qualified quarterbacks in the NFL in yards per pass attempt, 7.98, and was number 2 among all qualified quarterbacks in the NFL in completion percentage, 73.75. And Goff has quite the supporting cast. Receivers Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams, tight end Sam Laporta, running backs Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Commanders defensive coordinator Joe Whitt Jr. did a pre-practice press conference late Thursday morning. This was Whitt on the Lions offense.
You know, it starts with the quarterback. He throws with anticipation. He's calm in the pocket. His eligibles, 14, 11, they had just won. They have just so much speed and versatility from that standpoint right there. And then the running backs, you have two different types of running backs. One that can get on the edge right now and go. And then you have a guy that runs a little bit more behind his pads. Offensive line, they have one of the best tackles in football. And they move people. And then I think, the tight end Laporta, I think he's just, in my opinion, he's one, 2, 3 top tight ends in the league. I have a lot of respect and regard for his ability. We talk about, and somebody say this guy's better. I don't know if there's a guy that I can say necessarily is a better tight end than him from a skill set standpoint. I think he's really talented.
Yeah, the fear that is impossible not to have as a Commanders fan is that the defense is about to get worked as it got worked by the 3 previous opposing quarterbacks, the Dallas Cowboys' Dak Prescott, the Kansas City Chiefs' Patrick Mahomes, and the Seattle Seahawks' Sam Darnold. The Commanders for this regular season through week 9 were dead last in the NFL by miles in lowest opponents' yards per pass attempt, 8.36. So many explosive passing plays have been allowed by this Commanders defense this season. We on Thursday morning had this exchange between Donna Hopkins of Pro Football Plus and Joe Whitt.
Could you talk a little bit about, you said that you all are trying everything to try to work through this skid to get over it. Are you seeing some of the same things showing up each week that you're surprised about?
Surprised or disappointed, or I would say from the standpoint of the explosives. We didn't give up explosives last year. Hell, we were the best in the league in my time in Dallas and giving up the fewest explosives. I'm not used to it. So the amount of explosives that we're giving up in the pass game is really frustrating because they're coming from mistakes that really shouldn't happen, and I got to do a better job, or we got to do a better job of getting that communicated. And so that's probably the main thing.
Well, also on Sunday will be the debut of Joe Whitt as Commanders defensive coordinator on the sideline. Dan Quinn, during his day after the game press conference this past Monday afternoon, revealed that Whitt is moving from being in the Commanders coach's booth during games to being on the Commanders sideline during games. So here was Whitt on Thursday morning on this move, and then you'll hear a follow-up exchange between Commanders insider John Keim of ESPN and Whitt.
I know DQ talked about earlier in the week that I will be coming down to the field. I went and asked him to do that for a number of reasons. The first reason I've been in the box, Q, most of the coordinators that I've been around called it from the box. Q, Capers, Mike Pettin. Even when I was in college, the guys, the coordinators always called it from the box. You have a good view. You can see. You don't really have to have as much help with personnel, people coming in and out. So that's why the advantage of being in the box. Moving to the field, I think the energy that I have in practice that can be probably positive within the game for the players. A couple of the guys have been asking for me to come down as well. And so I think it's time for that to happen. We got to do whatever we have to do to get a win. And so the play has not been, especially this last week, to the standard at all. And like I said, that starts with me. I got to do a better job getting the coaches to get the players to understand how we're going to do it. And we got to get this thing turned. We got to get it turned right now. So with that, any questions?
So going down to the field, are there examples that you even can look back on and say, if I had been down there, maybe I could have affected it this way, whether it's a call, whether it's something, confusion or anything like that?
No. I don't think from that standpoint. I think I'm going, because you can look back and hindsight is 20/20, okay? And I'm not going to sit here and say that, okay, if I would have been down there before, this thing would have been different. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say that we're going to try something different because the results that we've been getting aren't good enough, And so if you keep doing the same thing you've been doing, we've changed the way we practice. We've changed our walkthroughs, the meeting structures, the voiceovers that we send them. We're trying to find offense, defensively, and special teams, the whole team. We're trying to get out of this rut that we're in. And but my focus is on the defense, and it hasn't been near good enough. So this is a change that I wanted to make.
Very interesting that Joe Whitt made it a point to say that this change of him moving from being in the Commanders' coach's booth during games to being on the Commanders' sideline during games is a change that he wanted to make and that he was asked by players to make the change. Dan Quinn talked about this change during his day after the game press conference on Monday afternoon, and then again during his pre-practice press conference on Wednesday afternoon, and he neither time said that the change was Whitt's call or was due to Whitt having been asked by players to make the change. Now, I'm not saying that Joe Whitt is lying, but he on Thursday morning made these things very clear, almost as if to make sure that we all understand that him moving from being in the Commanders' coach's booth during games to being on the Commanders' sideline during games is not some punishment. It's his call, and he was asked to do this by his players. So Whitt did also say that the continued defensive struggles start with him. I was glad to hear him say that. We later, during Joe Whitt's pre-practice press conference on Thursday morning, had this exchange.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned already about the significance and the importance of being on the field, bringing your energy and whatnot. You also talked about the importance of being up top to kind of see what's happening as a defensive coordinator. Was there ever a time earlier in this season where you thought maybe your intensity and what you can bring down on the field with the players could have been something you could have done earlier than this point in time?
No, I really didn't, because the viewpoint of seeing things from up top. I trust my coaches on the field, communicate well with them on the field. It's at the point where, like I said, a couple of players came and asked, hey, could you do this? Would you think about doing it? And once I heard that from them, okay. Well, I went to Q and said, Q, hey, let's look at it. Let me go down there and they might make a difference.
And again, Joe Whitt saying that he was asked by players to make this change of moving from being in the Commanders' coach's booth during games to being on the Commanders' sideline during games. And again, I'm not saying that Whitt is lying. I just find it notable and kind of funny that he wanted to make sure that we all know that him moving from being in the Commanders' coach's booth during games to being on the Commanders' sideline during games is not some punishment. It is his call, and he was asked to do this by the players. But look, I don't blame the team for trying anything to get this defense to be better. The defense has been a disaster. I have my doubts about Joe Whitt moving from being in the Commanders' coach's booth during games to being on the Commanders' sideline during games, making some major positive impact. But maybe the change does make a major positive impact. You never know. The defense has nothing to lose at this point. We on Thursday morning had this exchange between Commanders insider Tom Shad of the Washington Post and Joe Whitt.
Joe, you talked about changing all of these things, changing walkthroughs, changing practices. How aggravating, I guess, has all of this been for you personally, and what is left for you to change, I guess? Are there other things that you've changed in the past that you could eventually kind of move to and try?
The aggravating thing is we're not winning. We're not playing a good brand of a ball holistically and defensively at all. I mean, the last 4 weeks, I wouldn't have thought that we would have been playing the way that we have been. And so that's where I am with that right now. And we're looking at everything, and like I said, it starts with me. I don't dodge anything. I don't think I've ever came up here and made any excuses or put it on the players or put it on anybody else. It's my job to get the defense to play at a better level, and I haven't done that. So I got to do a better job, and trust me, just working at it every which way, and we'll get it figured out. We got to get it figured out now if we're going to get this season back on track.
Getting the Commanders season back on track. How possible, how realistic is that? Hey, make your internet experience the best and safest it can possibly be with NordVPN. NordVPN aims to make the internet a better place for everyone. Free the internet from online threats, censorship, and surveillance, and give yourself the ability to access content that isn't usually available where you live. NordVPN allows you to switch your virtual location. This allows you to watch sporting events that aren't usually available where you live. This is especially key if you are a Premier League fan. Switching your virtual location also allows you to save money by purchasing flights, hotel stays, and subscriptions from other countries at cheaper prices. NordVPN can pay for itself and then some. Also, NordVPN allows you to protect your private data like bank details, passwords, and online identity. And know this, one NordVPN account can be used on up to 10 devices. To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/Galdi and get 4 extra months on a 2-year plan. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. That's nordvpn.com/Galdi, nordvpn.com/Galdi, and that link is in the show notes for this episode of the podcast. Well, the 3-6 Washington Commanders in this game against the 5-3 Detroit Lions at Northwest Stadium this Sunday afternoon at 4:25 are, for a second consecutive game, facing a team that in the NFL's 2025 regular season is excelling on offense, defense, and special teams. We had this in the Commanders' 38-14 loss to the Seattle Seahawks at Northwest Stadium on Sunday Night Football this past Sunday night, and we have this Sunday. If you go by Aaron Schatz's DVOA metric, defense adjusted value over average, the Lions for the 2025 regular season through week 9 were number 8 in the NFL in total offense, number 3 in the NFL in total defense, and number 9 in the NFL in special teams efficiency. Pretty good. I am very pleased to welcome back to the Al Galdi podcast the radio play-by-play announcer for the Lions, Dan Miller. He has been the radio voice of the Lions since the 2005 season. He also is the sports director for Fox 2 in Detroit. He has had that job since 1997, and he is from the Washington, D.C. area. Dan went to George Mason University and worked in the D.C. area in the 1990s, including at WTEM, what was then Sports Radio 570, The Team. I, as a kid, listened to Dan on the radio. You could follow Dan on X at Dan Miller Fox 2. Hey, Dan, how are you?
I'm doing well, Al. Thanks for having me. How you doing?
Doing well. Nice to talk to you. A lot has changed for both teams since the Commanders' 45-31 win at the Lions this past January 18th in the divisional round of the playoffs. So one of the biggest cliche concepts in sports is the revenge game. Do you think that the Lions view this game on Sunday as a revenge game?
I don't. I mean, last year was just such a crazy ride from winning 15 games, winning in week 18 to take the division. But, if you go back and look at that season, they were spitting oil down the stretch, and there were some issues. And you go back and look really from the Buffalo game on last 6 or 7 weeks of the year, they were giving up over 30 points a game. And you could kind of see all the cracks started to form. And it's weird because you're talking about a team that won 15 games and overcame a lot of those injuries, but you lose your 2 best defensive linemen. You lose your best cornerback. You were just, guys were going away and not coming back. And so it became problematic. So I think that, to me, was a case where you want to be playing your best football at the end of the year, and they weren't. And I think people will look at that 31-9 win over Minnesota for the division title I would say yes, that was impressive, but also look at how bad Sam Darnold was in that game. That game could have been a lot different if he'd have just been a little bit better. Still think the Lions win, but the score was a little misleading. So, and I'll throw on top of that, Al. They're coming off a less than impressive effort against Minnesota. So I think they have a lot more on their mind than what happened last year. And obviously, you're not going to see Jaden Daniels out there or some of the guys that they saw last year as well. So I think it's just a different time, I think.
The Lions are having a good season, but like you said, they are coming off a loss, a 27-24 home loss to the Minnesota Vikings this past Sunday afternoon, and that loss was off a bye for the Lions. What went wrong for them in that game?
It was funny. It was one of those games we haven't seen much from this team where all three phases really hurt them. And we haven't seen that very often from the Lions where offense, defense, special teams have issues. First drive of the game, they go down and score. Then they give up a 61-yard kickoff return. And, J.J. McCarthy comes out in his third start and is already in plus territory. And I think one thing they didn't want to do in that game was make life easy for JJ, and that's exactly what they did. They gave him 3 drives that started in plus territory that turned into 17 of their 27 points, twice inside the 40, once inside the 30. And it's a different world if you make him go 75 yards. And one of those was a blocked field goal, one of those was a kickoff return, one of those was a turnover. So it was one of those rare games that we haven't seen from the Lions very often where they beat themselves. Credit Minnesota. They made plays when they had to and took advantage of all the mistakes they made. But it was just uncharacteristic of the Lions that we've seen under Dan Campbell. And I think that's kind of the message that came out of that one was I think there was honestly a little bit of shock that they played that way coming out of the bye.
The Lions this past offseason lost both their offensive and defensive coordinators. So offensive coordinator Ben Johnson became the Chicago Bears head coach. Defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn became the New York Jets head coach. The Lions now have John Morton as their offensive coordinator and Kelvin Shepard as their defensive coordinator. How are those guys doing?
I think defensively they've done some really good things, and they've had a lot of injuries in the defensive backfield. Now, luckily, they're going to start getting those guys back. They'll get DJ Reed back. They'll get Kirby Joseph back at some point, albeit don't know that it's going to be this week for Kirby, and DJ's further down the road. But they've been able to handle that. They're sacking the quarterback better than they did last year. They're taking the ball away more than they did last year. They've been good against the run really up until that game this past week against Minnesota where it got a little bit leaky and there was one big 31-yard run. So I think defensively they've been pretty good. If you asked me 2 or 3 weeks ago about the offense, I would have said, well, they're the number 1 scoring offense in the league, which they were after 5 weeks, but they've not been able to build on that. And I just think that now, if you look at it, the last 3 games, Kansas City, and their Monday night game, and then this past game, just not really the Tampa game. Even though they won it, they weren't clicking on all cylinders. They didn't get on one of those runs that we see them get on so often where they score 3 touchdowns in 3 possessions or 4 touchdowns in 5 possessions. I think every one of those games, they felt like they left something out there. The game against Minnesota was troubling because they were not able to solve Minnesota's defense and stymie that pressure that the Vikings like to bring. So I think the offense is something to keep an eye on in this game. They need a bounce back effort in this one.
The Lions QB1, Jared Goff. This is his 5th season with the Lions, off having spent 5 seasons with the Los Angeles Rams. It's funny how time flies. He now has been with the Lions for basically as long as he was with the Rams, and he's having another terrific season. Goff for this regular season, 17 touchdown passes versus 3 interceptions. What stands out to you about Goff?
He's just been consistent. I mean, he's just been really good. And even if you go back to 2022, when they started 1-6, they were scoring a lot of points. They had some turnover issues, and then they got everything going and won, 8 out of 10 to close the season and just barely missed the playoffs. Took off the next year, got to the NFC Championship. Last year, obviously winning 15 games. And then this year, good start as well. It's just been consistent and running this offense and spreading the ball around and utilizing the weapons. I think there weren't a lot of people that believed that Jared Goff could do that when that deal was made. Most people thought he would be a couple years and done. And when they got the guy in here that was going to be the long-term solution, but he's kind of turned into that guy, and he is that guy, and they've committed to him with a contract. So Jared just been terrific. He's been just outstanding in terms of, his just week to week protecting the football, not turning it over, and just being the kind of leader a young team needed when he came in here.
The Matthew Stafford-Jared Goff trade really has become one of those trades that worked out for both teams. March 2021, the Rams traded Goff first-round picks in 2022 and 2023 and a 2021 third-round pick to the Lions for quarterback Matthew Stafford. Jared Goff at his best with the Lions versus Matthew Stafford at his best with the Lions. Which guy is better?
It's not an easy question because Stafford never had the team around him that Jared's had. I don't think the Lions were ever better than 13th in the league in rushing with Matthew as the quarterback. The defenses were always terrible. So if you ever had an empty possession, you were going to get the ball back down 2 scores. So it's tough to make an apples to apples comparison because Matthew just never had the support that Jared had. He had Calvin Johnson, obviously, which was a lot, but there was just no balance to the offense. It was always Matthew dragging him up the field at the end of a game with a chance to win and miraculously pulling it out when they did win. But Jared's had an outstanding offensive line. He's had a top 10 rushing attack. He's had a defense that was top 10 in scoring last year. So this is such a better team that puts so much less pressure on Goff to be everything, whereas Stafford always had to be everything, that it's a difficult question to answer. But look, you see what Matthew's doing in LA. He's a heck of a player. And if he had this cast in Detroit as Jared does, I think there'd be a lot of success here with him. Would it be the same? Would it be more? It's hard to say, but I think they're both outstanding.
Much more with Dan Miller in moments, but if you enjoy this podcast, check out BGO Blind Pig, the official podcast of BGObsession.com. BGO Blind Pig is great. It is a roundtable discussion of the Washington Commanders. It's like you and a bunch of your buddies who are Commanders fans are hanging out and talking about the team. The conversation is smart and fun and respectful. The latest episode has a lot of good conversation about the state of the Commanders season. You can find the BGO Blind Pig podcast on YouTube and on any major podcast provider. Make BGObsession.com the home for your burgundy and gold obsession, and make the BGO Blind Pig podcast part of your Commanders podcast rotation. We're previewing Commanders Lions with Dan Miller, longtime radio play-by-play announcer for the Lions. So the Lions quarterbacks coach is former Redskins quarterback Mark Brunell. He has been the Lions quarterbacks coach since January 2021. He was a quarterback for the Skins for the 2004 through 2006 seasons. How's he doing?
Well, I think all those offensive coaches are part of the success that has happened here in Detroit with this offense, and he and Jared have a great relationship. And look, if Dan Campbell has shown one thing, if he doesn't feel like a coach is working out, that coach won't be here very long. But for the most part, the guys that he's hired have been really good, and I can't stress that enough. Just the importance of that in this resurgence or I don't even call it resurgence because they weren't coming back from anything. They were just appearing in this franchise. It's, everybody drafts players, but if you don't develop them and have the coaches that understand how to do that, you're not going anywhere. And they've done that. And we hadn't seen that here before since the 90s, when you had some pretty good teams with the Lions. But they've had a plan. They've stuck to it. It's Dan Campbell. It's the assistants like Mark Brunell. And they're great teachers. They're great on game day. And it's allowed us to enjoy this kind of success that we haven't seen around here in a long, long time. Obviously, the biggest success is still out there, but it's been a fun ride and fun to watch them do things the right way.
What, if anything, is a significant concern with the Lions offense right now?
Well, I think there's some concern about the offensive line right now. You just lost Christian Mahogany for the better part of the rest of the regular season. They're hoping he might be back late December. Taylor Decker's been dealing with a shoulder injury. Now he's dealing with a knee injury. So Penei Sewell needed treatment during the game the other day. So you got some banged up offensive linemen that I think we're going to need to see how they come into this game, who can play, who's going to be ready to go, and at what level. Because that offensive line has really been it's been the key to this team. It's really been the engine. You can talk about Jared and Amon-Ra and Laporta and Gibbs and everything, but it's always been the offensive line that has either opened things up for the running game, given Jared time to pass, whatever it was. That offensive line is what gave this team confidence. And right now, it's a little bit shaky because of the injuries, and they're coming off a performance that was not up to their standards. So again, I'll use that word, bounce back. They need to bounce back, and you need to get, again, that offensive line generating a running game, which they did not have against Minnesota, and that keys everything they want to do.
With the Lions defense, its best position group is what?
Safeties. When they're right, I mean, your secondary, I think it's the best, if not one of the top two safety tandems in the league with Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph. Kirby's been out. That's been a problem. Branch was suspended 2 weeks ago. So, we missed him for that game. But when those two are right, they're all over the field making plays, and they're both ball hawks. And they're just big hitters and just terrific on the back end of your defense, and they can get down in the box as well. And they're corners. When DJ Reed was healthy, he was outstanding. It was a great pickup in the offseason, but unfortunately he's been hurt. And Amik Robertson is your nickel, and Terry and Arnold kind of figuring things out at the other cornerback spot. So I think that's been the strength. The defensive line has been better than I think a lot of people expected. Aiden Hutchinson is, obviously a premier player in this league. Getting Aleem McNeil back a couple of weeks ago has been huge. It gives him some pressure up the middle. So, and the linebackers have played at a really, really high level. Anzalone and Barnes and Jack Campbell has come into his own as I think one of the better off-ball linebackers in the league. So it's a good defense. Few too many mistakes against Minnesota, but the job they did against Baker Mayfield in Tampa on national TV, the game before that, I think was one that had a lot of people recognizing what they're capable of. But again, they need to be better than they were against Minnesota. I just think that was one that left a bad taste in everybody's mouth.
Dan Campbell has been the Lions head coach since January 2021. His success as Lions head coach, I believe, was part of the Commanders hiring Dan Quinn as head coach in February 2024. The idea of the importance of the head coach being a great leader of men and a great culture builder. The Lions went 3-13-1 in Campbell's first regular season as head coach 2021. They are 41-18 in the regular season since. How do you view Campbell now as compared to however you viewed him when he became the Lions head coach nearly 5 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I had any expectations. I covered him as a player when he was here, and he was kind of a quiet guy. He's not the same guy that you saw now. But I think that was for us. He wasn't a big, huge media guy. But I think in that locker room, he was a significant leader. And I will say this, Al, everybody goes back to kneecaps and stuff like that. I would challenge anybody, and I may have said this to you in the past, to go back and watch that opening press conference. It's 90 minutes long. That's 30 seconds of it. But that 90 minutes was exactly what this organization and these players needed to hear. He charted a course, told people what it was going to take, told them it wasn't going to be easy, didn't sell anybody a bunch of, garbage and blow smoke. It was exactly what people needed to hear. It was a powerful 90 minutes that I think set the tone for what he wanted to be. Now, look, you start 0-10-1 or whatever they started. There were some questions, and there were questions next year when they were 1-6 before they got going. But he's an incredible leader. The players love him. He's charismatic. He's consistent. And he's really, really smart. And I don't know that he gets enough credit for that, but I think people are figuring it out. He's a really smart football coach who knows how to run a staff, and that staff has been responsible for developing these young players that have become the core of this team. Because forever we drafted guys and they never turned in anything. We never gave out second contracts because guys fizzled out. Now we've signed guys to nearly $1 billion in second contracts. So it's been impressive the way they've done it, and he's right in the middle of that thing with Brad Holmes.
Dan Miller, longtime radio play-by-play announcer for the Lions. Dan, thanks. All the best.
Al, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
All right, Nova Fireplace and Stove. It is Northern Virginia's go-to expert for fireplaces. Transform the look and feel of your home and increase its value by visiting Nova Fireplace and Stove in Woodbridge, Virginia, or by visiting NovaFireplaceandStove.com. And make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you for $25 off any service. Come in and see Nova Fireplace and Stove's stunning displays, including custom fireplace glass doors and stone refacing options that can completely transform the look of your fireplace. From sleek and modern to rustic and cozy, Nova Fireplace and Stove has something for every style. And here's what else Nova Fireplace and Stove offers: gas fireplace service and repair, chimney cleaning and brickwork repair, generator installation, panel replacements, and water heater repairs, smoke detectors, security lights, and more. Nova Fireplace and Stove is a family-owned, fully licensed and insured company with over-the-top credentials, gas and electrical master's licenses, a Class A contractor's license, and a long list of 5-star reviews to back all of this up. Every job includes a free in-home estimate, and for listeners of the Al Galdi podcast, Nova Fireplace and Stove is offering $25 off any service. Just mention this ad. Nova Fireplace and Stove only works in Northern Virginia and thus knows the homes, the codes, and the people. Your satisfaction is 100% guaranteed. That's Nova Fireplace and Stove in Woodbridge, Virginia, or NovaFireplaceandStove.com. And make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you for $25 off any service. Nova Fireplace and Stove, where comfort meets craftsmanship, and your fireplace becomes the heart of your home. Well, the Washington Commanders franchise historically has owned the Detroit Lions franchise. The Commanders franchise has an all-time regular season and postseason record against the Lions franchise of 32-16, including 4-0 in the playoffs. January 8th, 1983, the Redskins blew out the Lions 31-7 at RFK Stadium in the wild card round. January 12th, 1992, the Skins smashed the Lions 41-10 at RFK Stadium in the NFC Championship game. January 8th, 2000, the Skins ripped the Lions 27-13 at Jack Kent Cooke Stadium in the wild card round. And this past January 18th, the Commanders won at the Lions 45-31 in the divisional round. But as we know, past performance is no indication of future results. The Commanders have quite the task in front of them in their game against the Lions at Northwest Stadium this Sunday afternoon at 4:25. My friends, it is that time, the time to rhyme. It is time for Rhyming Keys, my keys to a Commanders win in rhyming fashion. These rhymes, they are not meant to be good, and they are not good. They are quite bad. The rhymes are only meant to make a few points, and in fact, we have a saying for this segment, indeed a rhyme for the segment. The saying is counterintuitive, but trust me, the saying is true. The worse the rhyme, the better the time. And so let's have a good time. Here we go. Hardcore analysis combined with scheduled fun. Rhyming keys for Commanders Lions. How do the Commanders win this game? We now rhyme the ways. Rhyming key number 1, this for the Commanders defense: pressure Goff so that he may be off. As we heard from the longtime radio play-by-play announcer for the Lions, Dan Miller, last segment, there are offensive line concerns with the Lions. So starting left guard Christian Mahogany is out until at least late December with a broken bone in his left leg. Each of the Lions starting offensive tackles, left tackle Taylor Decker and right tackle Penei Sewell, is dealing with a shoulder injury. And the Lions QB1, Jared Goff, is getting pressured. He, over the Lions' last 2 games, has taken 9 sacks. He, over the Lions' last 4 games, has taken 14 sacks. The Commanders' pass rush in the 38-14 loss to the Seattle Seahawks at Northwest Stadium on Sunday Night Football this past Sunday night was pathetic, okay? The Commanders, per the NFL's next-gen stats, pressured Sam Darnold on just 3 of his 24 dropbacks. I know the Commanders have 3 key edge defenders on the reserve/injured list: Dorrance Armstrong, Dietrich Wise Jr., and Javonte Jean-Baptiste. But still, the team has got to do better than that pass rush that was on display this past Sunday night. The state of the Lions' offensive line and Jared Goff's lack of mobility make this a potential get-right game for the Commanders' pass rush. Remember, we in this regular season have seen the Commanders' defense do well against depleted/bad offensive lines. And so rhyming key number one, this for the Commanders' defense, pressure Goff so that he may be off. Rhyming key for Commanders Lions number two. This is for Commanders offensive coordinator Kliff Kingsbury. We all love Bill, but give C-Rod the pill. Pill as in football. The phenomenon that is Bill, that is rookie running back Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, has cooled off considerably. Krosky-Merritt over the Commanders' last 4 games has 51 carries for just 157 yards, 3.08 yards per carry. Meantime, running back Chris Rodriguez Jr., all he seems to do is produce when called upon. He had the loss to the Seahawks, had 12 carries for 65 yards and a touchdown, had no targets, played on 34% of the Commanders' offensive snaps. Rodriguez, for last regular season, was by far the Commanders' most efficient running back in terms of DVOA and success rate. I want to see Rodriguez get more carries. I'm not saying that Bill should be benched or that Bill should be buried, but his reign as RB1 is not going well. Not all on him, by the way. The blocking has not been stellar, but the team, to me, needs to be more open to Chris Rodriguez as the Commanders once again are facing a quality run defense. The Lions for this regular season through Week 9 were number 10 in the NFL in run defense in terms of expected points added per play per RBSDM.com. And so rhyming key number 2, this for Kliff Kingsbury. We all love Bill, but give C-Rod the pill. And rhyming key for Commanders Lions number 3. This is for the entire Commanders team. Avoid the early gaff and lead at the half. One of the most reliable and undeniable realities about the NFL is that the team leading at halftime wins the game the overwhelming majority of the time, like 70-80% of the time. This is basically true for every team, every season. You can look for yourself. But consider this. The Commanders in this regular season, in games in which the team trailed at halftime, are 0-5. The Lions in this regular season, in games in which the team trailed at halftime, are 0-3. The Lions in this regular season, in games in which the team led at halftime, are 4-0. We tend to think of the NFL as this league in which wild comebacks happen a lot, but the truth is that the team leading at halftime wins extremely often. We have talked about the Commanders' hideous first quarters, right? The team for this regular season has a first quarter point differential of minus 38. Nobody trusts the Commanders' defense, but if it plays as it did in the first half of the 28-7 loss at the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football on October 27th, what was maybe the Commanders' defense's best half this season, then maybe, just maybe, our team can have the lead at the half, and having the lead at the half matters more than most people realize. Rhyming key number 3, this for the entire Commanders team. Avoid the early gaff and lead at the half. All right, it is prediction time. The consensus line per Action Network for this game as of Thursday afternoon was Commanders +8. The Commanders, yes, are in the midst of a 4-game losing streak, but the Lions are coming off a loss, a 27-24 home loss to the Minnesota Vikings this past Sunday afternoon. I'd be surprised if the Lions aren't focused and prepared for this game. The trend with rhyming keys is that they result in me taking the Commanders, at least in terms of the spread. The rhyming keys talk me into taking the Commanders, but not this week. Give me the Lions. Final score, Lions 35, Commanders 21. The Commanders defense cannot be trusted until proven otherwise. But you know what? There's also this. My hope is that there is some reverse juju at work here, in that me finally picking against the Commanders results in the team actually winning. It would be so nice to, on Monday's installment of this podcast, be discussing a Commanders win. But boy, it is hard to have faith in that right now. All right, time now to talk college football. Time now for GaldiLocks, my picks for the 7 FBS teams of the Mid-Atlantic region: Maryland, Navy, Virginia Tech, Virginia, James Madison, Old Dominion, and Liberty. You surely have heard of GaldiLocks and the Three Bears. Well, this is GaldiLocks, which helps you, as the great Snoop Dogg once said, make money, money.
Make money, money, make money, money, money.
That's right, Snoop. Make money, money. We have arrived at Week 11 of the 2025 college football season. GaldiLocks in Week 10 went 4-3. We'll do GaldiLocks in rapid-fire fashion. And then I want to talk about games for Maryland, Navy, and Virginia. The betting lines that I'm using are consensus lines per Action Network as of Thursday morning. And the rankings that I'm now using are via the season's first college football playoff rankings, which came out this past Tuesday night. We on this installment of GaldiLocks have 5 games to pick. Virginia Tech has a bye. The Hokies fell to 3-6 overall, including 2-3 in the ACC, with a 28-16 loss to Louisville at Lane Stadium in Blacksburg, Virginia last Saturday. Louisville, for that game, was the number 16 team in the FBS in the Associated Press Top 25 poll that came out on October 26th. Tech blew a 16-7 halftime lead, lost the second half 21-0. The Hokies' next game is at Florida State on Saturday night, November 15th at 7:30. Also, Old Dominion has a bye. ODU improved to 6-3 overall, including 3-2 in the Sun Belt Conference, with a 31-6 win at ULM last Saturday. The Monarchs, with this win, became bowl eligible for the 4th time since joining the FBS, beginning with the 2014 season. Their next game is home to Troy this Thursday night, November 13th at 7:30. So here we go. Maryland at Rutgers Saturday afternoon at 2:30. The Terrapins -1.5. Give me Maryland. I don't know what I'm thinking, but give me Maryland. Navy at number 10 Notre Dame Saturday night at 7:30. The Midshipmen +26.5. Give me Navy. Number 14 Virginia home to Wake Forest Saturday night at 7. The Cavaliers -6.5. Give me Virginia. James Madison at Marshall Saturday at noon. The Dukes -13.5. Give me Marshall. And Liberty home to Missouri State Saturday afternoon at 1. The Flames -7.5. Give me Liberty. You look at the 7 FBS teams of the Mid-Atlantic region. Navy, Virginia, James Madison, and Old Dominion already are bowl eligible, and Maryland and Liberty have legitimate chances to become bowl eligible. There's a realistic chance that 6 of the 7 teams play in bowl games this season, but Maryland is reeling right now. The Terps have lost 4 consecutive games. The Terps have gone from 4-0 to 4-4, fell to 4-4 overall, including 1-4 in the Big Ten, with a 55-10 loss to Indiana at CQ Stadium in College Park, Maryland last Saturday in the Terps' homecoming game. IU for that game was the number 2 team in the FBS in the Associated Press Top 25 poll that came out on October 26th. Maryland has 4 games left in this regular season. At Rutgers this Saturday afternoon at 2:30. At Illinois on Saturday afternoon, November 15th at 3:30. Home to number 21 Michigan on Saturday, November 22nd. And a game versus Michigan State at Ford Field in Detroit on Saturday, November 29th. Will the Terps win at least 2 of those games to get to 6 wins and bowl eligibility? Well, an obvious potential win is this game at Rutgers this Saturday afternoon. Rutgers has one of the worst defenses in the FBS. Rutgers for this season, as of games through Wednesday, was 129th out of 136 FBS teams in defensive efficiency per ESPN. But Maryland's offense is struggling right now. The rushing offense is really bad. The QB1, true freshman Malik Washington, has not been playing well lately. Are we in the dying days of Mike Locksley as Terps head coach? We, during Locksley's press conference this past Tuesday, had this exchange between Gene Wong of the Washington Post and Locksley.
Questions? We'll start with Gene on your line. Yeah, Mike, when you go into the season wanting to contend for a Big Ten championship and kind of circumstances have changed with 4 games left, how do you kind of recalibrate what the goals are? I know it's one game at a time, but, time is running out to get to a bowl game, to get all that kind of those things that you want to get checked off.
Yeah, our goal didn't have a number on it. We said our goal was to elevate the program. I think I've displayed and showed that there's still room for us to have the type of elevation now. We created some expectations, man, because we got a good foundation, a talented team that's inexperienced, not young. inexperience now that shows that there's a pretty solid foundation that if and when we keep this thing together, because of how deep-rooted it is, because of some of the lessons that we've had to learn here the last 4 games, that you'll start to see the dividends of it. Those extra practices, I can't tell you how important they are when you become bowl eligible, especially for a team with 64 players that have never suited up until this year together. Those are invaluable. And so for us, the ability to still elevate every goal that we have in our program, besides being able to probably compete for a Big Ten championship, are still there to reach. And that's where, when I talk about how deep-rooted we are and our relentless faith that we have in each other, that there's no doubt we'll get those jobs accomplished here.
Well, my hope as a Maryland graduate is that this season can be like the Terps' 2023 season. The Terps in the 2023 season started off 5-0, then lost 4 consecutive games, but then won 3 of the team's final 4 games, including a bowl game. The Terps that season righted their season off a 4-game losing streak off a hot start. Will Maryland do the same thing this season? Meantime, Navy at number 10 Notre Dame Saturday night at 7:30. The Mids no longer unbeaten. They fell to 7-1 overall, including 5-1 in the AAC, with a 31-17 loss at North Texas this past Saturday afternoon. Navy's weakness is no secret. The defense. Navy for this season, as of games through Wednesday, was 110th out of 136 FBS teams in defensive efficiency per ESPN. How is this defense going to do against the Notre Dame offense that features a quarterback in C.J. Carr, who for this season, as of games through Wednesday, was number 16 among all qualified FBS quarterbacks, and ESPN's total QBR 80.2. The Fighting Irish for this season, as of games through Wednesday, were number 6 in the FBS in offensive efficiency per ESPN, and Notre Dame is good both offensively and defensively. The Fighting Irish for this season, as of games through Wednesday, were number 21 in the FBS in defensive efficiency per ESPN. What kind of game is Navy star quarterback Blake Horvath going to have? The Mids need him to be great on Saturday night. This game will be the 98th all-time game between Navy and Notre Dame in football. This game will be the first night game at Notre Dame in the rivalry. Navy last beat Notre Dame in November 2016. And regarding number 14 Virginia hosting Wake Forest on Saturday night at 7. Man, it is something. UVA, number 14 in the first college football playoff rankings of the season. The program's highest CFP ranking since the CFP's inception in 2014. First time since 2019 that UVA has appeared in the CFP rankings. Virginia is the number 12 team in the FBS in the Associated Press Top 25 poll that came out this past Sunday afternoon, up 3 spots from the previous AP Top 25 poll. Then number 15 Virginia improved to 8-1 overall, including 5-0 in the ACC with a 31-21 win at Cal last Saturday. The Wahoos on Saturday night are facing an interesting team in Wake Forest. The Wake is really bad offensively, but really good defensively. The Demon Deacons for this season, as of games through Wednesday, were 118th out of 136 FBS teams in offensive efficiency per ESPN, but also were number 12 in the FBS in defensive efficiency per ESPN. Well, we have entered the holiday season. A great idea for dinner, a great idea for a gift is Omaha Steaks. Omaha Steaks food is outstanding. You know, my dad got us Omaha Steaks as a Christmas gift a few years ago. He won that Christmas. Best gift that we got. From handcrafted steaks to delicious fall favorites, Omaha Steaks delivers the world's best steak experience. Enjoy USDA certified tender steaks, juicy burgers, chicken, pork, seafood, plus tailgating favorites like chicken wings, smash burgers, and big deli-style franks. The food is so good, and right now during Omaha Steaks' semi-annual sale, you get 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, you get an extra $35 off with the promo code ALGALDI at checkout. Omaha Steaks offers unrivaled quality and variety, and every bite is backed by a 100% guarantee. Omaha Steaks is a family-owned company that has been America's original butcher since 1917. Yes, over 100 years of expertise in the meat industry. Bring home the legendary flavor and everyday convenience of Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during Omaha Steaks' semi-annual sale, and for an extra $35 off, use the promo code ALGALDI at checkout. Using that promo code helps out this podcast a lot, so thank you in advance. The promo code is simply my name, ALGALDI. 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com and an extra $35 off with the promo code ALGALDI at checkout. Terms apply. See site for details. Well, a night after a really nice win, the Washington Capitals suffered a rough loss. Wednesday night, a 6-1 win over the St. Louis Blues at Capital One Arena in a game in which top-line left wing Alex Ovechkin became the first player ever to score at least 900 career NHL regular season goals. But Thursday night, a 5-3 loss at the Pittsburgh Penguins in a game in which Caps special teams were a big-time problem. The Caps lost for the 5th time in 6 games. The Caps in the NHL's 2025-2026 regular season now are 7-6-1. Wild game, the Caps lost despite overcoming a 3-0 second period deficit. They lost the first period 2-0, won the second period 3-1, but then lost the third period 2-0. And yeah, special teams were not good. The Caps went just 2 for 5 on the penalty kill, including allowing Penguin center Sidney Crosby to score 2 first-period power play goals, and the Caps went 0 for 3 on the power play, falling to a putrid 7 for 46 on the power play in this regular season. The puck possession battle was even. Each team had 31 shots on goal. Each team per natural stat trick had 49 5-on-5 shot attempts. The difference in this game was special teams, and Caps special teams in this game were horrible. And regarding the Caps going just 2 for 5 on the penalty kill, the cliche in hockey is that a team's best penalty killer is its goaltender. Well, the Caps starting goaltender on Thursday night was their number 2 goaltender, Charlie Lindgren. He had another rough game. He stopped just 26 of the 30 shots on goal that he faced. Lindgren for this regular season, 5 games, goals against average of 3.59, save percentage of just .878. Not good. 3 bright spots for the Caps were Alex Ovechkin, Dylan Strome, and Tom Wilson. The Caps' top-line left wing, the Great 8, Alex Ovechkin. Really good game for him. Ovi had 2 assists, a game-high tying 10 total shot attempts, and a game-high 6 hits. And he was number 1 on the Caps in 5-on-5 shot attempt percentage for the game per natural stat trick at 68.57. The Caps with Ovechkin on the ice in 5-on-5 situations in the game had 24 shot attempts versus allowing 11 shot attempts. Caps top line center Dylan Strome, he scored an even strength goal 9:41 into the second period for his 4th goal in this regular season. He also had 2 primary assists, was tied for number 1 on the Caps with 5 shots on goal, and went 14-5 on faceoffs. Also, he was number 3 on the Caps in 5-on-5 shot attempt percentage for the game per natural stat trick at 62.79. The Caps with Strome on the ice in 5-on-5 situations in the game had 27 shot attempts versus allowing 16 shot attempts. He did commit a third period cross-checking minor and another goal for Tom Wilson. He served as the Caps' second-line right wing. He scored an even-strength goal 19:55 into the second period for his 9th goal in this regular season. The Caps' healthy scratches on Thursday night with the same 3 guys who were healthy scratches on Wednesday night, defenseman Declan Chisholm and Dylan McElrath, and forward Spencer Smallman. Next up for the Caps is a game this weekend at the Tampa Bay Lightning, Saturday night at 7. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at @AlGaldi. You can email me the AlGaldiPodcast at yahoo.com. Monday show, episode 1195. We'll have a lot for you on the Washington Commanders. In-depth reaction to and analysis of their game against the Detroit Lions at Northwest Stadium this Sunday afternoon at 4:25. Also on Monday show, I'll discuss college football, the Washington Capitals, the Washington Wizards, and college basketball. We on Saturday have games for 5 of the 7 FBS teams of the Mid-Atlantic region. The Caps have one game this weekend at the Tampa Bay Lightning, Saturday night at 7. The Wizards have games on back-to-back nights this weekend, home to the Cleveland Cavaliers Friday night at 7 and home to the Dallas Mavericks Saturday night at 7. And college basketball this weekend includes Maryland home to Georgetown Friday evening at 6, Virginia home to North Carolina Central Friday night at 7, and Virginia Tech versus Providence at Mohegan Sun Arena in Connecticut on Saturday afternoon at approximately 4 in the 2025 Basketball Hall of Fame tip-off. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you on Monday.
we're looking at everything, and like I said, it starts with me. I don't dodge anything. I don't think I've ever came up here and made any excuses or put it on the players or put it on anybody else. It's my job to get the defense to play at a better level, and I haven't done that. So I got to do a better job.